everybody. Welcome to Cheshire Cast. I am your host, Corey.
And I am your host, Patricia.
Yes, and we are back for another week. This feels like the day I spent a week in Watertown song. It's like an endless string of podcast episodes. I'm enjoying them all. It's just
this is the first one this week. You had a couple days off.
Yeah. Hey.
Of recording,
couple.
Of recording.
Yeah.
I know you're doing a lot of editing.
That's
a lot of episodes.
Oh man, got me.
So much has happened.
You got me working day and night.
Listen, someone's got to bring home the bacon, Corey.
Who's bringing home the bacon then?
I don't know, Jamie. You have launched Patreon. That's huge. It's like huge. Like that's something you've been talking about. Like, you know how when you meet somebody and they have dreams and they're talking about it, you have launched a podcast, a Patreon podcast. I'm really proud of you because without you, Corey, none of this would be
us.
No, it's not
me. It's you.
I'll take credit.
It's us.
I'll take credit for making corny jokes on the podcast, but I'm giving you full credit for all the admin work you've been doing because it's been ridiculous. And I'm not here to pat your back. I just want to give you credit where credit's due.
Stop
Patreon's live, and the website's live.
Website's live. Yes.
That's huge. That's beyond my realm of, productivity. That's something I could never accomplish. You did it, and I'm proud of you. And here we are.
Thank the Academy.
I thought you were going to give me a high five.
I'd like to give you a high five. I'd like to thank my mom and my dad, everybody that's been a part of my life. Thank you.
Don't cry.
You like me.
I'm going to play music.
You really, really like me. There, I threw...
Sally.
You got it. I'm always impressed when you get a pop culture reference that I toss.
Well, good. It's very easy to impress you, Corey.
No, it's actually very difficult. Ask all my friends.
Don't ask me her last name. Struthers? What's her last? Sally Fields. Okay. Yeah.
So, like my shirt?
Yeah. What is it? Camo? What is it? What's going on there? You got to be careful these days. What's happening?
This is a Hawaiian shirt.
Even more so, Hawaiian shirts right now are being co-opted. Let's not talk about that.
Oh boy.
I know. Sorry. Culture, man. It's constantly and ever changing. It's making me, looking back when my grandparents would be like, in my day, like I'm starting to get to that place to my kids. Like when I was your age, it wasn't always like this.
Yeah.
In my day, 3 months off of school, I mean, I never really knew that was a possibility in life for that to happen. Like they're taking it for granted. I'm like, enjoy yourself. Run, be free. They're going to expect this every year.
They are. And it's good. It's good that you brought that up because we can discuss this with our guest today who who could
amongst
tell us
other things.
Yeah, he could tell us what school's going to maybe look like in the fall, if we're going to have more time off, what
is graduation going to look like?
Graduation, and everything else. I mean, there's a lot going on, and it's
we're going to focus.
Yeah, we were talking before we recorded because this gentleman is a friend of mine. I enjoy him very much. I respect him very much. I know he has a hard job to do, and I want to have him come in sometime when we could just kind of make jokes,
shoot the breeze,
and drink
just
beers,
shoot the breeze,
and, have a good time. But it always seems there's heavy stuff.
Life's not having it.
So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Jeff Solan, our superintendent
of the Cheshire Public Schools.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Trish. Great to be with you guys.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, why now a little light went on that I think I forgot to add something to my notes, but didn't something change since last time we had you on? Didn't you get a change in your status? Didn't you add a couple letters to your title?
Yeah, I did drop an EDD on the end of my name. I am officially a doctor now. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. 4 years later,
That's a lot of papers.
I missed our graduation, my own graduation this year. I can kind of relate to what our kids are doing.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
You're now Dr. Jeff Solan.
Yeah. It's almost adding as much street cred as when you referred to me as your friend, Corey. So that's where
It depends on what circles. It depends on what circles you drop his name in.
Exactly right.
It is true. It is totally true.
Yeah. You're safe here, though. You're safe here. This is a safe place to drop his name.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing that, because that just betters our entire community school system.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
because we're going to use that doctorate for all it's worth.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I like that you take your role and responsibility seriously. I mean, some people they get at the position you're at and they sit on their hands and ride it out. But advancing your own knowledge and your own experiences only benefits the entire community. So kudos.
Yeah.
He's a lifelong learner.
That's right.
That's what we're trying to create.
Yeah. Actually, I've already had a couple of offers to teach, but I don't think I'm ready to go that route yet. I think trying to tackle the global pandemic and some of the social issues we're facing today is probably what's next. There's enough on my plate today.
And that, we'll jump right into it. Jeff, you wrote what I thought was a great letter to all of the parents. I don't know if that goes out to the entire community or not.
Yeah, I sent it to students and parents and staff.
Yeah,
I got it.
And I thought it was very well done and very well stated. It for those who didn't read it, I'm not going to read the whole letter now. If you want it, I'll put a link on the episode. But you head on discuss the current situation we're dealing with across the globe when it comes to what's going on with
racially
with the matter as it pertains to race,
equality amongst the races.
And I at first I was surprised that you decided to send that letter, and then I realized how important it was to come from you and
our leaders, our community leaders.
And that's what we need right now is strong community leaders.
Leadership on every level, as calm and as brave and as ethical as it can be. Kind, professional. We need it. So thank you.
I had taken from Martin Luther King Jr. in the letter to really highlight the opportunity that this presents for leadership, either in somebody in my position who's responsible for a lot of students or right down to the individual level. And this is a chance to kind of examine ourselves and our society and really take steps to improve both.
To do better.
Yeah.
What do you feel as a community we can do to make that change?
I think it starts with examining ourselves and, where we're coming from, and then having conversations. I can't help but almost to default to working with kids and helping them through this time and using it as an opportunity to grow. And I think that's another thing I referenced in the letter is that, failure on our part to talk to kids about what's happening would be akin to educational malpractice.
Yep.
If you sit silent here, then you're part of the problem. And so how do we work with our kids to help them understand the historical context of what's happening today? How do we help them process what's happening? This is an adult. It's hard for all of us to see what we saw, to see what we're continuing to see across America. It's a lot to take in. And, I'm not 10, and I can only imagine what it's like for a 10-year-old. So having those conversations with kids about, what are you seeing? It's okay to talk about race, because if we don't, we can't keep it hidden in the closet anymore. It's just not, and we haven't been able to for a long time. And I think we, as the school system, are continually trying to address race and culture, but it's something that is never quite done.
Somebody's looking for your attention. Is that a dog in the background?
So. I don't know.
I didn't know whose it was.
Well, our friends are coming over to go in the pool apparently.
Yeah, it's a dog or a hungry kid.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Thanks for not saying it was my wife.
Oh God, no.
Yes, thank you, Corey, for not saying that.
She's much tougher than that.
Where we have to go is forward, right? There's no backwards. There's no avoiding the cultural conversations anymore. We can't leave this when it calms down and just sweep it under the rug. We can't have history continually repeating itself. We have to add it into our vernaculars. We have to add it into our conversations. We've already touched on it a little bit. I know that there are courses in academia that teach to it, part of history. It's in textbooks. Like, what, as a public school administrator, what do you see already in the curriculum that we were doing? I know there's room for more. That's obviously the way that we have to go. What were we already doing to address these types of issues? And I know that's different from community to community, depending on your a million different factors. But as Cheshire, what do we have going on?
Sure. So at the youngest grades, it starts with kids are aware of differences in race, in the way that we look or the way that we talk, helping them identify similarities in the way that we are. What unifies us is more powerful than what makes us different. And what makes us different makes us more exciting. I mean, that's what the United States is.
That's a strength. It's a strength.
Mm-hmm. I'm the son of an immigrant, and I don't take that for granted. That our country is built on many different people, cultures, races, and it makes
all of them.
Yeah, it makes it like no other place in the world, and that's what makes us special. And trying to inculcate that value in kids at the youngest ages is important, to recognize what are the things that make us similar and special. As we get older, developmentally, we start to evaluate and educate our kids about some of the racial injustices that have occurred in our society over centuries. It's unbelievable to me, having been to the Civil Rights Museum in Little Rock, Arkansas, to think that it wasn't that long ago in our country's history that we were dealing with segregation. That there are many people alive in our country that have lived through segregation, and that in a period that the injustice carries on. And how do we educate our kids about having conversations that are safe, that understand that context and how to process that? So a lot of work is done in English and social studies, where we get into themes, and it's not just black and white. It's all races, ethnicities. Gender orientation has become an area that we've spent a lot more time on in recent years, but it's definitely an effort, both in the classroom and through our extracurricular activities and cultural activities, to highlight the similarities that we have and what unifies us. At the high school, we've had for many years something called B1 Day. And it's really meant, be one community, all of us together, recognizing our differences, but celebrating our differences and being one community. And Dr. Gadd, the high school principal, and I were talking today about the fact that, God, could we use that today more than ever? And it's only one small piece of a bigger picture, but it's a powerful day. And, it's regrettable that that's amongst our losses from COVID-19 this year.
I was thinking about it as I was listening to you respond and what you guys are teaching in class and trying to teach the younger students. And I didn't grow up in Cheshire. I grew up in the Hamden, New Haven area. The schools I went to were very, very diverse culturally. So every class I had was filled with all sorts of different people. Cheshire is not that. So the thought popped in my head of how difficult or what type of difficulty that must add to trying to educate when you can't have like a physical representation, if you will.
Yeah. Well, ignorance is part of the issue here, and ignorance can often come from what you don't know. And in your example, Corey, you talk about being surrounded with diversity and recognizing that, geez, there are people of different races and ethnicities that are very much like me. And there are people that I kind of don't care for, whether they're white or whatever. It's not about the color. It's about who they are as an individual.
Yeah.
So you get to experience more of that in a diverse community than you do here. So yes, it definitely presents an issue for us to have our students experience more diversity. And we think that that's incredibly valuable. And we recognize that kids don't leave Cheshire and often enter a society that's like the insular sort of experience that they have in Cheshire, the very predominantly white experience that they have. And so
the monochromatic.
Expand those opportunities is something that we need to continuously pursue. We do engage in Project Choice. It's a lottery system where students in New Haven can seek to come to Cheshire, and that often does add diversity to our school system, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to what we would like it to be.
Sure.
And it is very hard for those students, having been a principal at the middle school and high school, to travel from New Haven on a bus for an extended period. And, most of our students do well through middle school, but then as they get into high school, the time is so much earlier in the morning that it is really hard to get up at 6 a.m. when you're 15 years old to get on a bus to come to school. It's just, and that is something that, we need to continue to take a look at with our partners in New Haven.
So switching gears. So we've got to try to cover a little bit of everything. So obviously we've been dealing with COVID-19 and the, I don't know what they're calling it now, distance learning or at-home experience learning or
remote learning,
whatever. I've heard 5 or 6 different terms, but remote learning.
It all means the same thing. Kids are not going into the classroom.
Yeah,
right. And, it's certainly added a burden to many households. I mean,
everyone.
I'm very fortunate where, we have a setup where I work. My wife has the opportunity to be stay-at-home mom. So, the only real adjustment has been she's now a teacher for a couple hours a day, but the distance learning thing hasn't had the impact on me that I know it's had for some, because you're dealing with single parents who are both working,
younger kids that really need
parents whose
assistance.
job is being a teacher.
Yeah.
And their own kids are home. I mean, and I guess
we've been plagued particularly by tech issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really strong tech issues.
What are some of the biggest things that you're hearing about and like are on your put out fire list, if you will.
Yeah, I think what you've acknowledged initially is that, this is a tremendous lifestyle shift for our students, for our parents, and for our staff. This is like turning the world upside down. And I think initially when it happened, there was probably a little bit more tolerance on everybody's part to the change. Everybody was like, okay,
wow, they did it.
Shouldn't be so long,
Yeah.
When on March 13th, that was the last day that we had school. It was a half day. And we're thinking, all right, let's just prep this for 2 weeks.
Go for a little bit.
It should be good, right? I mean, that's what we're hearing. Schools will close for 2 weeks. And then it became 2 months and the end of the year. And I think, patience from our students, parents, and staff has been really tried over that period. I think, in spite of that, our parents, students, and staff have done incredibly well trying to make the best of a very difficult situation. But I am glad that we had the foresight to reduce the April break a little bit when people had a little bit more gas left in the tank than they do today, and to stop new learning in most cases on January 1st, and just kind of focus on what the big ideas were, because I can definitely see where all parties are a little bit more at the end of the rope these days.
January 1st? June 1st.
June 1st. I'm sorry. Did I say January?
I was wondering why they didn't need much help from me. That's been a long time.
The new learning
June 1st.
We stopped on June 1st because, first of all, we recognized that our kids have been going at this a long time. We turned it around in a real hurry. In 2 days, we were up and running on that third day, getting folks ready for remote learning. And so our kids have been engaged. Some other districts, weeks before they got started in remote learning. So our kids got going early. We wanted to take advantage of making sure, doing some conferencing. Where are you with remote learning? Where are you in Q4? Let's touch base and talk about what your needs are. And then, next week we're going to start with the exchange of materials, which obviously makes remote learning much tougher when you're turning your Chromebook in for some kids in some grade levels. 7 through 11 will not be turning in Chromebooks yet. So we're kind of gearing down, if you will, and focusing on professional development and the possibility of what some remote learning may look like in the fall.
Yeah, I know you guys took this all in stride. You did. You didn't miss a beat. You didn't miss a beat. You ran into it with everybody else, and honestly, the turn of a dime, my kid was home at school, literally within a matter of days of discussing the possibility. The physical beast that is public education in Cheshire, wherever, that's a huge animal. That's huge. The fact that you guys were able to take that entire mechanism within days and move that into each individual kid's homes is a monumentous task that you deserve hours of accolades for. And I hope you've received them, regardless of problems. I've had problems. My son, everybody, we all learned how we were going to be with this. One good thing is he's no longer asking to be homeschooled. Like, he's ready. When this is over, he's ready to go back. And that's a huge feat in this house. I just want to give you the proper accolades, knowing what goes on. And not only that, but the lunch program too was extended. That's all part of this mechanism that you guys were able to control at your will. And it wasn't perfect, but it wasn't annihilated either. You guys pulled it off, and for that I'm grateful. I know there's still stuff you guys are dealing with. I know there's a lot of seniors and a lot of graduates that you want to reach out and help. So, but thank you for all of that. As a parent who was already wary about sending my child to school in March, thank you for accommodating that for hundreds of families.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, it was a real to have centuries of brick and mortar instruction. Nobody was fully prepared to no longer have that.
It's not even a thought. It's not even fathomable.
For our 4,200 plus kids to turn it around in 2 days and try and provide an educational experience, I think it's something that we've evolved and we've become better at. Like you said, all of us are far from perfect in that regard. We're still trying to learn and grow, and I think we're making progress. And my goal is to do as little of this as possible come the fall.
And you might never have to do this again, ever.
Yeah,
all this learning.
I pray it's the case. But if we do have to, I think we want to do it better than we just did it. And that's part of our mantras for that continuing, always continuous growth mindset, and that we can always do something better. And so we're working on it already. But I think what we would try and do, Corey mentioned in the intro, what might fall look like. And, the state's put out a couple of different models, like a split day AM and PM. They've put out a model where kids go to school every other week and alternate with peers. And they've put out a model that was strictly virtual for all kids. And in my mind, that last option is what you do when there's absolute outbreak and you have no option to go to school, like we dealt with in early spring. But for me, the other two options aren't really viable when you have working parents, and we want to try and get our kids in every day as much as we can. We don't have the space for all of our 4,200 kids every day. So, what I had thrown out is a proposal that we are evaluating, nothing formal yet, obviously, but looking at K through 7 in person every day in the building. 8 through 12 would be remote, with periodic days where 8 through 12 could come into the building. But even that is hard to facilitate. Our 7th graders, for example, would be at Dodd, whole building to themselves. We would take half the elementary students and move them to the high school. So it would be a huge, you want to talk about, again, huge lifts, huge shifts. But in order to get kids in buildings every day and space them out
with
the way
social
that we're
distancing,
supposed to, that's what we would basically have to do. And
what kind of numbers are you talking about for that to have to happen? Are you talking about another peak?
The state is evaluating that right now as we go to summer school, extended year services for special needs. Unfortunately, we had to cancel the in-person component of that because the list of requirements, no food, no drinks, the extensive social distancing, the cleaning regimen with a population that can struggle to wear PPE, it just wasn't going to be feasible. So, I'm hopeful that as August rolls around, the restrictions get a little bit more conducive to having people in the building, realistically.
Or the case numbers.
Yeah,
fall off.
absolutely. I mean, that's the bottom line. I don't want to forget about the fact that there are literally thousands of Connecticut residents who've lost their life to this. And absolutely, I recognize that most of those folks are older. They're not school-age population. But I think one of the things that we forget pretty quickly is that spread, the viral spread, and the impact it has on hospitals makes healthcare and emergency care for anybody of any age much more difficult. And so, it's obviously a major crisis for our country right now to work through this pandemic.
I don't know if you're at liberty to I don't know if you're at liberty to share or not. But was there any report of any illnesses within any of our schools?
Yes. Yeah.
There was?
Yeah, definitely.
Was it?
Folks in Cheshire, if you look at the statistics put out by the Connecticut Department of Public Health, they list there are hundreds of cases in Cheshire.
Yep.
And that definitely has impacted our staff and students. And so,
schools are a vector. Schools are a vector for germ spread, for any germ.
Right.
When the flu hits a community hard, it blows through the schools. Schools and their proximity, just the environment is a conductive vector for germs.
Yeah, tell an adult not to touch their face, and then an 8-year-old. So it's natural that would happen, and it's really doesn't have anything to do with. And I know you're not suggesting cleanliness of facilities or anything, but it's just a reality of dealing
Germ
with a younger
spread.
population. It happens at daycare centers. It happens, it's the reality. And so I think we're all trying to work through that, do something that's responsible and protects our community, because it's really more of a community health issue than it is, like I said, for kids this age. The multisystemic inflammatory disease that had been reported is scary as heck for me as a dad and as a school administrator. But it's really rare compared to some of the other impacts on older populations. But it's still scary, and we want to make sure our kids and our community are protected.
Well, you're dealing with two big pieces of messaging when it comes to schools and COVID. You have two theories, basically, that you are kind of going to have to navigate. One is people really are not tying the age group of the school kids to the dangers.
Sure.
I guess, as an administrator, you are also concerned about the staff. It's not just the kids getting sick, but also their kids don't live in a vacuum. They are going back home to families. So that's one. But another thing is that you're going to be contending with, and probably have been, is parents need to work outside of the home eventually. And school in America is a huge part of childcare. I know it's, I don't mean to equate schools to babysitting, but I am equating schools to where children spend a bulk of the working day.
Sure.
So those are two huge issues that society is going to have to manage, let's say, if we're at the third wave in September. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's those are just society's concerns, and those directly relate to schools. Yeah,
I mean, as a dad who works outside of home, I get it too. I wouldn't feel comfortable leaving my little guy home all day. So I absolutely appreciate that element to it, which is why I didn't think that the half day or alternating weeks was really practical. I think it may be, some sort of ideal, but it's just not feasible for people.
If I think of anything that fixes all your problems, I'll be sure to email you.
Well, I would appreciate that.
and I hope everybody does the same.
We're open for miracles, definitely.
I'll tell you what works to change your mindset and your attitude a little bit on things when it gets a little tough and you start getting a little down on yourself. Put a Hawaiian shirt on. Because
it makes you feel good.
So Trisha was teasing me before we were going to turn the studio on and connect with everything. She was saying, you've got a green T-shirt on, and I did, and I didn't even realize I had a green T-shirt.
You can't do that with green screens.
So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go upstairs and get a shirt. And I said, oh, I know. So I grabbed this. This is the shirt that I always wear to win my ugly Hawaiian shirt contest. So I grabbed this.
Putting the ow in luau, that shirt.
Oh yeah. So but as soon as I put this on, I felt so silly.
Yeah.
Good.
And I came downstairs. My daughter looks at me. She goes, "What the hell is going on?
Yeah.
What's going on here?"
Yeah.
So Hawaiian shirts make everybody laugh.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a little levity right now because, you can't ignore the serious because at this point, we have to figure out the serious. Like, there's no avoiding it. This kind of serious, it's there. You can't step over it. You can't walk around it. We're going to have to walk through it all together. So, and you have to deal with that. But it's so much that every once in a while, laughing at Corey's Hawaiian shirt is appreciated. Because, life has been heavy.
But that brings me to the point, too, where there's been a lot of people in our community that have been going out to try to do things to cheer everybody up. I mean, we saw, so I think somebody dressed up as a Cheshire cat. We saw somebody dressed up as a guy being abducted by an alien, and most dominantly, we see the Cheshire Ram now. First
There was
it
a Cheshire
Easter
Bunny.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
to Cheshire Bunny, and the Cheshire, obviously Easter ended, so the Easter Bunny went home, and the Cheshire Ram showed up, which I think has been great because, I mean, that ram has gone up and down the streets, and
That ram gets around.
That ram does get around.
Yeah.
I,
three
you
seniors
know,
on our street, man.
yeah, I can't open Twitter without a ram cameo.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's seniors around prom or
Birthdays.
birthdays or sports teams, the Memorial Day parade, whatever, the Memorial Day musical celebration. Like, the ram is kind of omnipresent, and I appreciate the fact that, you know, the ram's out there making people smile too.
Well, I will be having
Community.
I am planning to have the ram on the show when this is all said and done, so we could be formally introduced to that person. And I think
that's a big get.
Yeah,
That's
I think
a big get for the show, Corey.
I think that
That
person,
ram is busy. That ram's dance card is packed.
I'm
Yeah.
glad I'm not following the ram. You don't want to see that slip in ratings, you know?
I think
Speaking of
that person is quite awesome.
Seniors. Speaking of
Yeah.
seniors, Corey,
Wow.
you have a senior in your home.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
What are some of the, you know, I don't want to say disappointments because it's not all about disappointments because we are working through them, but what are some of the big things she's missing? Like verbally, like what has she expressed to you?
Prom.
What is she hated missing prom?
Yeah, we planned on it. We bought a dress. We had the whole thing.
Is she going to do anything like get pictures with the dress and stuff?
I haven't heard anything.
I've seen some stuff like that. I'm just asking. So prom is a big one. I know. What about the night, the all night party?
Yeah, just finishing her senior year formally. And then the way I've felt about it is, what is disappointing to me is, it's one of those milestones you look forward to with your kids.
Yeah.
And, I won't see her, get her diploma in cap and gown. And it's one of the things I look forward to. I mean, granted, I know there's 100 other things that she could have dropped out as a freshman or whatever, but, so that's not happening. The final year experience of leaving the school as a graduating senior. I think that's a major milestone in everybody's life. And for her to, not have that, I think she's bummed, but, she certainly set her sights on college, and, she's going to they're
resilient, aren't they? They're really resilient kids.
But she's going to University of New Hampshire. She talks about that constantly. She's got her roommate. She's, shopping for stuff. So I think that's taken some of the sting out of this year. And it's given her something to look forward to. And I think without that, it would have been much worse.
Have they announced in-person classes for New Hampshire for September?
So far, move-in date is scheduled for August 28th.
Okay.
It all looks like it's gonna be working out. I mean, I guess they have it set up so it's physically distanced, and there's some, I guess, limited class time. But she'll begin the college experience come.
It's a whole new framework.
August. So it's 2 months. She's pretty excited.
The reason why I'm bringing up disappointments is because I know recently Cheshire has announced some graduation plans, and I would love for Dr. Solan to go over them with us.
Sure.
Dr.
Solan.
I had several conversations with our seniors, and, that piece that Corey talked about, the prom, and absolutely it's a huge setback. But I think what they missed most over the last couple of months is just being around each other, as he was saying, just that end of year experience. And there are a lot of great days, whether it be B1 day or the senior skip day or senior class, picnic, or there are just so many moments that they get to share with one another and make memories that are going to last.
And they've seen seniors do it year after year. They've seen it done. And you get, and I'm a senior, I'll do that.
And that's been kind of pulled out from under them. And, I appreciate the maturity our kids have. And as much as they're disappointed, like you said, they are forward thinking. They understand that the perspective of things and why this is happening for the most part. But still, it's got some sting to it. Our graduation, what we're trying to do is, to the greatest extent possible, give them back some of those things if we can. And so we surveyed our seniors and our parents, our senior parents, knowing that so much has been lost out of their control this spring. My take is, it's your graduation. What can I do to, make your graduation better? You tell me what you want, and I'll do the best I can. And so they elected to postpone until August. Our goal is that, meetings, social distancing's relaxed by then. If we can't do it in a more traditional way at the football field, then we'll do a drive-in style at the Farmington Polo Club. If you haven't been there, it's incredibly beautiful. It's owned by Bizzuto's, and we actually came upon it by looking at their parking lot as we were looking at another drive-in option. And they're like, well, why don't you take a look at the Polo Club? And they have a wonderful setup there for kids. So even if it isn't, the in-person graduation that we all want, it'll be memorable and it'll be unique and kind of cool. And I hope our kids get that at the very least, if not a traditional ceremony. So we're shooting for August 2nd. It's a Sunday, late Sunday afternoon. And if weather doesn't permit, we're shooting for the 5th of August.
Well, I appreciate all of the efforts.
Yeah, it's really like the kids have been through so much and had so much taken away. I think it's kind of the least we can do to salvage something, some sort of memory for them.
So, Jeff, how are you doing?
I got this kind of human pinata feeling going on. Like I've been beat about.
Are you filled with candy?
Oddly enough, after the COVID-19, I actually am filled with candy.
I can
if there was
that.
like an ice cream version of a pinata, that would probably be me.
Oh, boy.
Anyway,
you win.
I as much as it's been incredibly challenging, and I'm working more hours than I ever thought. Trisha and I were talking before, like, geez, I wish I could go back to the old overwhelmed, because this overwhelmed is way harder.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that this has provided a lot of unique challenges. Mm-hmm. And that problem solving and trying to do best by our kids and community and education, that's fun. Like, how do we beat this? This is a new challenge. How do we tackle it? That's a great
attitude.
It's exciting to rise to the occasion and try our best to do that. So reframing it makes
not that you're challenging life. You're good at this point. You're good
kidding. But, we're trying to reframe it, and I'm really proud of the effort, like I said, of not just our administrative team, but all of our teachers and our staff, our CAF staff, like Trish mentioned, but really our students. Like this isn't easy for them, and all the things they've been taken off of them in terms of like things that they don't get to experience anymore. Their friends, they're playing games, baseball, all the spring sports, lacrosse, the play. Our kids worked so hard for the play and didn't get that opportunity. Marching in the Memorial Day parade. All these things have been kind of pulled out from under them, yet they're persevering to the greatest that they can. And I don't want them to have to live through it again, but I hope it's teaching them lessons that will help them as they go through life.
I hope they don't get used to it.
Yeah,
I hope they don't expect 3 months off of school every year.
Yeah, but I know our parents won't get used to it. I know I wouldn't get used to this.
No.
Feeling like it's dragging on all of us, and because it's tough.
I could take a little less excitement. I'll be honest. Being home with the kids is one thing. Tech issues with distance learning is another thing.
Yeah.
Watching, the world change. It's enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's definitely plenty to keep you busy.
Yeah.
Well, two
about our
kids are adults.
Yeah.
I saw an announcement. You guys still picked your valedictorian, salutatorian. Yep. You guys still had, and to your credit, you tried to keep every aspect of school that you could. You tried to provide that experience. I know my son goes to Norton, and Miss Grillo has these challenges and tries to engage not only just the student, but the family in a non-aggressive way. Not in a, you must do this to feel as part of our community. No, it was like, hey, if your kids are missing this aspect of community, here, it's available here in this way. It was a very noble attempt at normalcy, and it will not be forgotten, and it shouldn't go unnoticed. And hopefully you guys created this mold, and it will forever be in history, and you'll never have to pull it out of the cabinet again. Hopefully it just gets filed away and we move on. With regards to a couple of students, we would love if it's allowed to have a couple of seniors on the show at any point. If you want to suggest kids that want to come in and talk about their experience, that's something we would love to give our listeners a glimpse into their experience. We're not seniors. We're dealing with our own adult life situations, but just to take a minute to breathe through their, process, it would be fun.
It's interesting.
But I know Corey's up for
perspective. Yeah, it gives perspective on, what our kids have managed. And, like I said, this has been challenging for us as adults to comprehend. As an 18-year-old, you don't have the same perspective of life experience that an adult does. But, this has built some serious perspective, too hard, too fast. And, I was talking to somebody the other day, and it's like, well, our seniors haven't been drafted to fight in a war. That you want to talk about what life could be challenging, they're not living through that, but this is tough. This is really tough. And it's been,
if you want to talk statistics,
the
losses from COVID, it's kind of like being drafted into a war. We've all been drafted into the COVID war, and the losses are astronomical.
No kidding. Greater than the Vietnam War in terms of death.
Greater than many wars combined.
Yeah, it's horrific to think about how many people lost their lives.
And are continuing to.
Yeah.
Yep. Right now, the world we live in is ever changing, and it seems like every day I wake up and I'm ready for what's next. Like I read an article this morning about tremors around Yellowstone National Park. Like that volcano's ready to go.
Yeah, killer bees.
Are we gonna be?
Yeah.
At
this point, I wouldn't be surprised.
Are we gonna be hit by a meteor?
Killer bees out west.
They do. We're gonna be hit by a meteor. What's next?
Probably an asteroid.
Yeah.
The meteors are small.
They're different.
But
it wouldn't take much. It wouldn't take much at this point.
Yeah, well, it's true.
Our country has faced incredible adversity, and hopefully, like prior challenges, we're going to come through this even better. And I have faith.
We have no choice but to.
Kids that we do it.
We have no choice but to. There's no going back at this point.
Yeah.
It's true. So, do you have anything that you're looking forward to over the summer? Are you going to get a break?
Where's your Hawaiian shirt?
I hope so. I really do hope so. I I guess my kids have historically gone away to camp over the summer. They've gone to sleepaway camp, and this year they won't. And I know they're kind of disappointed by that. But for me, I'm hoping that my life pace slows down a little bit over the summer, and I look forward to doing things with my kids, and not even on a structured vacation somewhere, but just at home. Playing, whether it's pick up basketball or going in the pool or goofing around and taking walks.
Aren't we lucky? Aren't we lucky in all this devastation that we have these things?
Yeah. So
we have to consider ourselves among the lucky.
Yeah.
So before you sent the kids away to sleepaway camp, did you make them watch the movie?
Which movie?
Sleepaway Camp?
No.
Is that a horror
movie?
Oh, absolutely. It's a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a lot of
sleepaway
horror movies.
Well, this one's called Sleepaway Camp, and
are there machetes involved?
Sure. I'm not
Corey, they live with me. What makes you think they're not accustomed to horror? Getting away is like a blessing in this. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I like that you set up whatever room you're in to be part of the podcast. So you're representing. That's
I'm trying to outfit
professional
props.
I like it. I like it. I like that you put some thought into
details.
Shows initiative.
Yeah.
Trish, what kind of grade can we give Dr. Solan for his?
And he gets nothing less than an A+. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
You're not going to get less than an A+ from me. He has the flag. He has the ram. He put on a blazer. Are you wearing pants? I know it's a personal question. It's a pop culture question.
If you want to find out,
I'll give you Corey's instead.
I am wearing my drawers. Yes, I have full pants on today.
I can't believe we just made him say that.
It's a whole thing. It's a whole the Zoom phenomenon that has taken over the technology phenomenon because of stay at home. There is a huge, you can wear from like the waist up your business, and then from the waist down
business up top, party down below, and
pajama pants.
I want you to know that this whole thing is all pre-recorded. I worked this out. I'm not even here right now. You're watching a video. The real me is just somewhere else.
Show us the Hawaiian shorts. That's what
I don't.
Corey's always wearing pants.
You got your old school 80s
I'm not wearing any pants. I do
Corey
every show with no pants.
Slob out. I totally have I go from one comfortable outfit, like a daytime comfy, to a nighttime comfy. Corey gets dressed. He wears pants. With buttons.
I did 3 weeks where I didn't wear anything else other than my pajamas.
Yeah.
Good.
And
that was it? You just had tolerance for 3 weeks?
Yeah, it was like 3 weeks. Now, Jen, I really appreciate that Jen trimmed up my hair, but I need to.
You need to get it high and tight.
Yeah, you got some good flow going there, Corey. You do. I gave myself a self-cut the other day. Not happy.
How many?
You just put it on.
It's not that difficult cutting the 14 or 15 hairs you have.
Yeah, exactly right.
I want no part of this.
I didn't say it took me a long time. I just didn't do it well, Corey. The clippers, they leave a little to be desired. I think they need to be sharpened up.
The front, I could see you doing yourself, but how do you do the back?
Not really well, Trish.
I can't even imagine how bad that was.
That's part of the problem.
He has one part that's like.
Yeah. I look like freaking Dilbert, I gotta wear. I got like 17 hairs, as Corey said. I still have to wear gel because of the. It's not good. I got stuff going everywhere up here. If I don't.
Those 17 hairs need product.
Well, I had somebody accuse me of wearing a hairpiece.
Really?
Did you?
I legit. Somebody made that joke on something that was going on Facebook, and they said, when you're gonna take off your hairpiece. I'm like,
is it just the front? They think. Let me see. They just think that front pat.
I have no idea. But
if you were wearing a hairpiece, it wouldn't be that one, right?
I'm like, yeah. I mean, I'm like,
you'd have frosted tips.
Do you think I'm paying for this? Like, I'm not that vain. If I was going bald, I would go bald. I don't care. This is all. This is my head of hair.
Yeah. You got good flow going. You got a flow.
God, I don't even have a bald spot. So like the one thing I'm most proud of is the fact of this.
Yeah, you're holding it together up there. You're holding it together up there.
I am very lucky. My hair just grows long. It doesn't. I'll be honest with you. It grows and it's growing and it's. I gotta get it cut. I mean, I understand you guys are all up here.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm at the point where I may do it. I may just do it. We'll see.
Do it.
But I can do a ponytail and I'm all right. I'm straight. You guys,
yeah, but no gray. You're looking good. You know.
No gray.
Just I got
a few patches that are starting to thin out, but that happens.
I'm starting to go gray. It's starting to really
defy age forever.
Yeah, I've put about 12 years on in the last year, so I'm finding some gray hairs these days.
If that's all you're finding, you're lucky.
Well, listen, Jeff.
Enjoy them.
I think you need to go out and treat yourself to something nice.
Dairy Queen.
Whether that's an ice cream or a new car, one of the two things, anything in between, you definitely need to treat yourself to something nice. I think you deserve it.
Oh, thank you, guys.
I appreciate you coming on the show and talking with us and having some fun with us and being serious with us. That's what the podcast is all about.
Yeah, well, I appreciate being invited. It's always good. I like hanging out with you guys and having a laugh. As much as times are challenging, our laughter and relationships will help get us through it. So I'm glad to find both here, and I appreciate being on the show.
Thank you, sir. Trisha, any parting words?
No.
All right, fine. God, you're so mean.
Get out.
Get out.
Make sure everybody just gets outside and breathes a little fresh air.
Get out.
Especially this day and age. Go and get some perspective wherever you can find it. Those are my parting words.
Moments of Zen.
Well, with that, again, we thank you very much for being part of the Cheshire Cast. As always, well, now I get to add something new to the closing, but check us out on the www.cheshirecast.com. Find us on all of your favorite podcast apps. You can also support the show by visiting us at Patreon. You can find the link to our Patreon on Facebook on the CheshireCast.com page, and it's patreon.com/CheshireCast, or send us an email at info@CheshireCast.com. Special shout out to Jamie Ferguson at Caldwell Banker for supporting the show, and thanks everybody else for listening. Become a Patreon, and you'll get treated to some special content. The whole other show, outtakes, silly banter, and private sessions with Trisha and I. The Patreon membership offers you a ton of unique Cheshire Cast experiences.
And some swag.
Oh, yeah. There's gifts, too, like beer mugs and hats and all kinds of stuff. So, check it out and keep watching. Again, Dr. Solan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for everything you've done for Cheshire and continue to do. Keep the faith. We will all get through this.
Yes, amen. And with that, we say, see you later. So
bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
And remember, always bet on black.